already started. That's tied to,
Right.
yes, exactly. So call to order. If, seeing as there's no one here from the public, we won't do public comments. And we'll go and we could take a minute to review the minutes from the June 10th meeting. And point out any errors and mistakes, and then after a couple minutes, I'll entertain a motion to approve. You are not aware.
Present.
And Bill, I just saw you sent me an email. Is it important?
No.
The meeting.
Everything is important, I send you around.
From a time
Driving truck because I didn't think you was to be here. I saw the car that got off.
I'll be covering it tonight, so no big deal. I just got them tonight, so I forwarded them on.
Okay, thank you.
There, Wi-Fi should be.
Village guest.
Oh, nice.
Elaine, you got it, okay?
I did.
Uh,
It's Hampshire 1876.
that was a good year.
It's a secret.
It was
Anyway.
100 years after the birth, 100 years before my birth.
Wow.
And then,
Is that all lowercase?
H is capital.
Cap, I'm sorry, thank you. You said 1876?
at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay.
Present.
All those who weren't here, say present. Okay, the motion carries. Okay. All right, now this is a very exciting moment for us. Every time we have a new member join us, it's pretty exciting. Karen, first I would like to say thank you for taking the time to audit what we do and make sure that you wanted to be a part of it, and we appreciate that effort that you took, and so we are excited to have you join us. We've been at this for about 3.5 years now, and I think we've made a lot of progress, but we've got a lot more to go and a lot more things to accomplish, and we think having you on board with us is really going to help us do that. So,
Thank you.
so welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. And we've talked with amongst the board, and so at this point, I'd like to open it up for discussion. If anybody has anything they want to offer in regards to this topic, and if not, if there's nothing, then I'd just like to proceed right to the vote if we can.
So,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm smiling again.
We can see it in there. So at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve. Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. Josh, do I have to do a roll on this? Or not really?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't think so. All those in favor of appointing Karen Traska, our newest member of the Business Development Commission, signify by saying aye. All those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Welcome to the team.
Thank you. Very excited to be able to thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Looking forward to
You're gonna do
it.
great things.
Yeah, you're coming in at a good time, so.
Yeah, it
This,
seems like it.
this downtown
It's
project
exciting.
is gonna be fun.
Yeah, let's turn back the clock 2 years ago and see what our meetings were like.
Yeah.
I wanted your definition of fun halfway in the middle of the project.
I have 4 kids and I'm a landlord, so it's fun to me. All right, so before we get into the meat of the meeting, as far as the side stuff that we've got to do and things like that, I'd like to turn it over. We were all here present on Monday, obviously for the meeting. Thank you guys for that. Also, thank you for joining us again in such short time. I felt like this month really needed to do that. But we've had I think some pretty exciting developments since we last spoke a little bit. I mean, so Josh, I want to kind of turn it over to you and Jay and allow you guys to share the spreadsheet and kind of what you guys have gotten to since the weekend.
Ryan, if I could just introduce this, Josh, I can't see the screen. Do you have the spreadsheets up yet?
Yep.
Okay, I'm not seeing it at my end, but that's okay. I don't need to see it. I have it at my end. Okay, so there it is. Good. So if you recall last time, you guys did a great job of picking out two options. The first column being column D, which is visible here. It looks like you've dropped the other option. Josh, is that right?
Yeah, put it back.
Okay, that's fine. So what we learned since the last meeting, first of all, is if you look to the bottom, which I can't see from here, sorry. The total is less than $1 million, less than $1,034,000. So for this plan, we have $42,000 more to spend in the next 10 minutes. So this is like a shopping spree for all of you. The other side of that same coin is, the reason I asked you for the $200,000 more is that we had a source of funding from IDOT, $180,000, which we thought we did not have a use for in the village. But our engineering firm, EEI, has looked into it. They do have other road improvements that they feel are a priority, and I would agree. $1 million is a good start for streetscape. So with that in mind, we've dropped the additional option for $1.2 million. So I don't want to rush you into this if you're not comfortable with it, but you're all pretty familiar with these, and I think you might be able to see on the other screen still the design. And then Josh also has the pictures of the different features that are aligned with the column on the left. So if you look in column B, we have $42,000 that we can add to this budget before we take it to the village board, if there are some things that you all feel strongly you'd like to have included. And it would really be helpful if we had a consensus from the BDC before we go to the village board.
Was the village clock gonna be underneath a different fund?
Yes, sorry, that's another change. I knew that we had a budget for the clock, but the budget was not quite as expensive as what ERI has in mind. So we only had $1,500 in the budget, so we had to put $12,000 back in for the clock.
Gotcha.
And just to kind of add to Jay, some of the things that we had in what we called the extra, when Jay had talked about the extra 200,000 during our last meeting, we had the decorative street lights, continuing that through, and then we had the trees, sort of continuing that. Concrete at State and Jackson was another thing that was added. And then the extension of the asphalt. Because we don't have, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, or Josh, this does not include the extra asphalt that we had talked about, correct?
And those extra priorities you just listed are highlighted in blue, so you can see the prices right next to them.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
And let me just, what I failed to say was the reason the number is now lower is that the engineering, basically lines 7, 8, and 9 are now more precise. They took some time and were able to reduce those costs quite a bit. So that's why we have 42,000 available.
So the asphalting looks like it's out. The extra asphalting at 167.
Yeah, that's just not an option at this point.
So, so we're talking pavers on the festival block, is that correct? And then, okay. And then the improvements at the intersection of all three intersections, starting with Washington, right? Or
Yes.
whatever way you're looking at, right?
Yeah, there's two. Right?
Here and then,
Here and there.
Well, here and there. But Washington and State and Jefferson and State.
That's number 8 and 9.
I got it, okay.
We talked a lot about the bollard lighting.
And the decorative lighting too.
Yeah, I mean, if there was some way we could fit just to have the streetlights be consistent.
Right, that would be nice.
I would agree.
It just kills me when it looks like
Right.
it's choppy. That's just me though.
Mhm.
And I assume it's, well. So,
But streetlights, others, that 55,000, that's over 42,000 right there.
Can we find that 13 somewhere, Jay, do you think?
If that's a consensus of what you all want to do, we'll find 13,000 somewhere, or these numbers might come in even lower once they're bid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the idea of the lights too. Yeah, there has to be some continuity.
I agree.
Yes.
yeah.
I agree.
So agree discount on that, then we can play.
I don't know, while we're working on infrastructure, might as well get it done.
Yeah, right.
While we're working on infrastructure.
Okay, so you're proposing putting this in, right?
Yes, sir.
Bill, what do you think?
And then,
Lord.
everybody feels pretty good about that?
Karen?
Good.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll ask Jeff to donate a salary. To get us.
I'm not sure that would be enough.
What's that?
I'm not sure that would be enough.
It'd be close. I think we come in still a little short. Maybe all the trustees too, and we'll get there. Okay, so is that anything else, guys? I mean, that seems to be, we'll sort of make that change and that kind of burns the whatever extra we had, and I think it's a solid plan.
Ian, I'd love to know your perspective on if we ever wanted to add trees or anything like that. Is it a big drastic improvement project?
No, I mean, if you set up the streetscape, so you have the ability to put pop trees in there.
Right.
If you remember, you had the squares and planters and stuff like that. We'll have that between Jackson and Washington, I guess it was, so.
I'm just wondering if they,
But down the road, we have the, I'm sorry.
oh, I was just gonna say, if we're gonna, oh yeah, we're not updating the intersection down here.
You know, the only thing I question about the trees is how would you put trees in when we've got a 3-foot sidewalk that goes right into the street?
It goes into the street.
They go into the street?
Yeah,
Okay,
So if you go parallel on
they
one
would just-
side, it would add, you could probably,
okay.
was there any other
The thing about what you're discussing is that you put in all the things that would pretty much be impossible to add later.
Yeah,
Most of the things that are left could be added later with just a few $1,000s, as Karen
Yeah.
suggested last time. We might get some corporate sponsors who can help us with some of the other things that can be added.
and who knows, I mean, there is a possibility that we share, we get this approved and we share this with the overall community and the businesses. There might be that wish list and opportunities to say, Garden Club, you could sponsor a couple trees, right? And then we could do it all at once versus.
Certainly.
Right.
Yes, I like that idea.
trees and the planters and the benches are all good.
Yeah, right.
You minded,
Yeah.
put your plaque on the name.
Yeah. Even a family who wants to
Yeah.
commemorate a loved one, maybe who's passed or
Yeah,
an anniversary or something.
Yeah, I stopped for the first time at the Veterans Memorial that was put in Cellar Park.
Mhm.
I heard about it, but we were walking, it's pretty impressive. I mean, it's pretty cool,
Yeah, they did a great job.
right?
They did.
Yeah, so,
JR Josh, I'm assuming Public Works has either some sort of forklift or a big bucket, articulated bucket that can pick up the planter or two if you want to move it around for festivals and stuff.
Yeah, yes, we do have that equipment.
We just acquired actually a bucket truck recently.
was there any again, it's only been several days. Any thoughts on Green Avenue possibly getting in touch with the railroad?
Let me just say that I went by there again this morning just to take a look. There's probably room for 20 cars to park there. And as we discussed the last time, Canadian Pacific Railroad, I don't think they even know they have a railroad in Hampshire. So to the extent we just want to park there, I think we could. If we ever wanted to pave it and go into more effort like that, we'd have to speak to them. But no, we have not spoken to them since last week.
I'm just wondering if, I would assume that if I was a trustee and based on all the conversations surrounding parking in the past, taking away spots, there's going to be discussion about. So I would just be prepared to talk to other parking options outside of the 2 lots that are in town.
One thing I would mention about the lots is I was looking at that specifically today. One of our lots is pretty well filled up with James Motors vehicles right now. We're working really hard with them to try and find a new location, but that'll be a while for them to build a building. Part of that reason is that they've donated the space under their overhang on Jackson to the restaurant so they can use it for outdoor seating. So once that is over, they'll be able to move their vehicles back. But a lot of those parking lots are really not used very much except for overnight residents and for James Motors. So people may just have to get used to walking around behind the buildings to park as they would in most communities.
Okay. Good.
Feel good? All right, let's get moving.
So Ryan, if you don't mind, since that went so quickly, can I impose on you for about 5 more minutes? Did you have a chance to look at the A5 branding strategy that I emailed you?
Yeah, I saw that you emailed me. I glanced at it, but I have not had a chance to look at it in depth. I saw Aaron also replied, but what, you want to talk about that?
If you don't mind, Josh has copies that he can hand out. It's just so on point to what you guys talked about a month ago.
Perfect.
I just thought I would share it with you and see what you all think. I believe this came up under when Jeannie was presenting the banners. And we kind of wandered into this very, very important conversation about branding and having consistency throughout our whole effort. And I see this as kind of the first step in developing a real economic development strategy. So if you could just take a look at this, this is just the first company that I made contact with this week or last Friday. And I just think that graphically, they really cover a lot of the bases that you all were talking about. I have spoken to him today and we started talking cost a little bit. He was talking $15,000 to $20,000 and we're down to around $5,000. Yeah, I don't really expect a lot of discussion since Ryan hasn't had a chance to really review it, but I think just graphically you can see right away that he hits a lot of the hot buttons. So I just thought maybe a couple minutes of discussion about this would be very, very useful.
I'm a huge advocate for it.
I was gonna say that.
I mean, I've ran brands before in the past, and yeah, like, it kills me to my core when I don't see consistency across the board. That being said, again, you know, the same caution I threw out last time is the village has to have an appetite to be able to adopt this. That means so changes. I mean, it'll be good to document if we go down this road, but it'll be, you know, you're talking about everything from, oh, there's Shay.
We can see you now.
There you are.
Yeah, so you know, if we're looking to, I mean, noticing some of the village equipment around town, trucks, things like that, logos are consistent. Even everything possibly down to the police department, you know, everything has to, and it could be a slow evolution, but whatever that is, I totally agree. I think we do have a look and feel. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I guess, and I'm curious for you guys, I mean, this is not my area of expertise. I mean, look and feel, it's, you know, my wife picks out, you know, all of our decorations for good reason. But my first glance, I mean, it seems like there's quality here. I mean, and I know we've had the extended conversation with Mike Armato. I know we had a company come in and do branding. I think we're on board, but there was some, I don't know if you were.
I was there.
I don't think
It was
they were.
very expensive.
But there was an argument that we were putting the cart before the horse. Remember, that was part of, I mean, marketing and branding. I mean, I'm in sales, but I don't, you know, I actually sell. I don't like market as much, but I know it's critically important, but I thought there was a timing thing, like, is there? I'm all for it, right? I'm all for professionalism and brand. I mean, and branding seems to be connected to sort of presenting. What, didn't we have that? Wasn't that?
Yeah.
It was, because I think he was talking 60 grand
Right.
back
it was
then. It
60
was a huge number.
But they came in and surveyed the community to find out what we were good at and what could be our brand with what we already have here. So it was a lot of research and development before they even came up with the brand.
Right. They had done it for Lombard. I thought.
Cartersville,
Yeah.
Liberty, no, Mundelein.
I don't know, what does everybody think?
This group has done work for several communities in the area, and so Hanover Park one a little further east, but also some out here. And I think their pricing at 15 to 20,000 is probably a normal good start. But on the public sector, it's really easy to cry poor right now, maybe even in the private sector, I suppose, too. But I just feel like that you all have brought us this far, and there's probably every person in that room today could lead this. But having a professional facilitator, I think, walk us through it, walk the BDC through it, then walk the village board through it, and they would facilitate that whole process. So I'm not really asking for a vote of support or anything. I'm just looking for some comments, or if you want to just share those comments with me later, that would be great. But I'm just curious if this is the kind of thing that you were speaking about last week.
I'm 100% in favor of it. So I think we need, like you say, a common theme, a common brand that everybody can grab onto and support.
Especially if we're rolling out a whole new Main Street. I mean, that's just perfect timing.
Right.
Because that's one of the things I saw when I looked at Jeannie's proposal for banners and coming off the heels of what we just reviewed last week. I mean, downtown could become the signature or look and feel of all our, what they call lockups or logos. But what Hampshire is. I mean, right now our logo is what's down here.
Down past.
You know. And it's like a tombstone, you know?
Oh, gosh, yeah. Now I'm never gonna not see that.
Yeah. So, but it could be something that really just encapsulates everything we're talking about. You know, you look at Barrington, you look at Algonquin, there are silhouettes of their downtown in their logos. This could serve something for us as well, so.
So I guess, Jay, I would say, yes, we all kind of
Yes.
agree with that, and specifically at that pricing, if that at least gets us started. And certainly it's something I think the group is ready to do with this business.
Great. I hope I'm going to talk to Mike next week. We really need to get back on our brochure now, our economic development brochure. And I think the timing is right with the wayfinding signs, the streetscape, the banners that Jeannie's working on, economic development brochure. It would be a shame to spend the money on all those things and not have a common brand.
Right.
Totally.
So I think this is the right time. I appreciate all your comments, and I'm going to hang around for a few more minutes, but I apologize. I do have another commitment tonight.
No problem. Thank you, Jay, and thanks for bringing us to, when you said 8.5, I thought you were talking about a car originally. I'm like, oh, what's my pinning out an audio?
You have one of those, don't you, Ryan?
Well, it was on a Sunday too. I got it on a Sunday. I'm like, oh, I'll look at that later.
You used to have a company car, Jay?
Yeah, my son has an A5, but I can't afford it.
Yeah, it's a nice car. All right, so great, fantastic. Well, speaking to your point, I did get an email from Mike. He wasn't able to join us tonight because his wife has a Park District Board meeting, and they've got a young son, and so obviously one of them's got to look after the son. But he did say that he's got, I'll talk on his behalf. He's got a meeting with the map designer on Thursday, and he hopes to have the first draft done by the end of the month. So I don't know if that's consistent, Jay, with what you and him talked about, or Josh, but he says basically it's been stalled because of COVID, he says. And so he hopes to get back on. He's got some meetings this week, and he by the next time we get together, we should have something to look at.
That sounds great.
Yeah, so that's the update from Mike. Now with Jeannie, I know beautification, you guys, the next item on the agenda is item 7, and that Jeannie had presented to beautification committee some of the options for the light pole banners. Did you guys have a chance to look through those? Okay, I know we had extended discussion during beautification on that bill. With Jeannie not being here, do you know, Jay, if Jeannie's made a decision on which direction she's gonna go on that yet?
No, I don't. In fact, I thought she was going to be here tonight.
She's usually, if something must have come up, she's usually pretty reliable.
Do you want to wait until we have a brand?
Well,
Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Very good idea.
okay.
Yeah, I would definitely.
So maybe I'll share our opinion from our board that it would make sense for us to wait,
Yes.
perhaps until we get the brand. How long ago, Jay, do you think that brand will take to sort out? It's probably not something that's gonna be done quickly, do you think?
I would say I'd like to bring it before the board and maybe the second meeting in August. So then if it's, first of all, I want to really vet this guy properly and maybe get a couple more proposals, but I was really pleased with his approach. I spent probably 3 hours on the phone with him today. He grew up in Crystal Lake, so he knows this area very well. In fact, he knows Hampshire very well. I would like to think we could get it approved in August and we could get going in September. I'm guessing it'll probably be October before we have something to work with. The banners, if the chamber feels strongly that they need to move ahead, that's something we may just not be able to capture, but I think Jeannie will probably understand that.
Okay, and so I'll just share her opinion, just say, hey, from our perspective, not anything sort of, we talked about it in the group. basically felt like, if you could, we'd like to wait until, we get the branding completed, so.
I have a feeling that depending on what happens with the streetscape, there's probably gonna be more banners. As well as sizes probably will be different. So she'll have to remake them.
Question, Jay, this is Karen. I have friends that are, on the village board in Barrington. Do you want me to ask and see if there's any kind of testimonial that they might have? I'm talking about here.
Yeah, that would be great, Karen. That was my next step really, is to check out some of the references.
Yeah, did you want me to ask?
I would love it. Thank you.
Okay,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Are you in the room, Karen?
Yes?
This is your first time there and I'm not there. Sorry.
I won't take it personally.
It's so weird that you can't
You're right
see her.
behind me, so.
Yeah.
Because from my perspective, it looks like you should be able to see her perfectly. You're actually right over her shoulder.
Jay's looking over my shoulder.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Jay. That's excellent. And I will, I'll take that as an action item to, for me to email Jeannie and express the board's position on that. So, excellent. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is Main Street. And Ms. Lopez has been prepared, I think, for a little bit, and she's ready to present to us her findings on the 5th, 7th, 7th.
Did you all get mine? But I'm Jeff Chester. I know it's kind of lengthy, but I'm just gonna be flat out honest with all of you. The first 2 meetings, it was exciting and great, and by the time I got to the 3rd one, I was depressed.
Well,
Because we're not capable in our organizational structure right now to do what could be done. And so I wrote, I think on page 2 of where do we go, what are our next steps? Basically, most communities have a separate Main Street organization. Many of them are 501c3s and they operate separately from the government area. Some operate within the government area. I think one of the reasons I was so depressed after the 3rd class was I was the only one on the call that didn't have a special Main Street organization. Only one. And so I thought, okay, what is that telling us about our situation? So I think we have 2 choices. We analyze what we want to do with Main Street, continue as we are, not having a separate organization, just using their ideas and benefiting from their knowledge and continuing the way we are? Or do you think it is a priority to help the community to develop a Main Street organization, which could be like a subcommittee of this group? And so I think this needs to be something that's clearly discussed. But I will tell you, the branding idea, Jay, is fabulous, because that's the thing that they kept pounding over and over and over again for leadership is you have got to have a mission, a vision, and a brand before, because otherwise you're going to be going in all these different directions and nothing will be coherent. And so it seems like we're going backwards, but I think that we're going in the right steps to get this brand and what we are doing. The other thing they also said is that for a Main Street organization to be successful, it needs to be thoroughly endorsed and agreed upon by the village government. Because if it's not, you're going to be hitting roadblocks all the time. There's going to be things in your way. And so I'm not a part of the village board. I don't know what they're feeling about this. But I think we as a group need to discuss is having a separate Main Street organization an idea that you want to pursue, or just continue as we are, just using Main Street ideas and programs as a guideline for what direction you want to go. And then once we decide that, once we decide what we want to do and where we go, the first thing on my list was our mission, vision, and branding. So now we're going in that direction. Another thing was that we need to go back and revisit our transformation strategies. Remember last year we had decided upon food and dining entertainment. Well, because of COVID, they suggested everybody go back and look over your transformation strategies again and see if that's applicable now because of COVID. And if it is, then how do you change those into COVID transformation strategies? Because it's truly affecting all the main streets. Surveys, they said was big, so thank you very much for Dave getting all those surveys out to there. I thought this was interesting. I never thought about this before. They said Main Street societies or groups or organizations are community focused. We do what the community needs, whereas Chamber of Commerce are business focused and they do what the businesses need. And I'd never thought about that. I was thinking they were kind of all together, but that was a very good perspective. And I kept hitting home that every Main Street organization needs to be, what does the community want, and be bottom up driven, not one person on the top calling the shots saying, you do this, you do this, you do this. And because again, as we know, people help support that which they create. So that was big. They said, discuss physical spaces you have in the village right now and go at it nowadays from the safety guidelines. Or the businesses you have following the safety guidelines that are set aside by the state and the community. Find out the vacancies, if they're temporary or are they permanent, and then the needs for the resources. And then the COVID impact, which you kind of did on your survey that way. They said their overarching needs for recovery strategies was supporting business retention, going out to our businesses. And I think Jeannie had said that. She just reached out to all the businesses and said, how are you doing? Which is really good. But again, that's the Chamber of Commerce doing it. That's not us. No. And one of the things they said, by having a separate organization, then you can have clear boundaries. Who does what? And right now, I think we're like swimming around in one big pond. Rebuild the confidence of our consumers. And again, I think our surveys did that. But if they know that we as a village or as a Main Street organization are making sure that our businesses are safe, then people are going to be comfortable going back and doing business there. Rethink vacant spaces. If you got vacant spaces after COVID, now how could those be used? They said options were financial resources, and you've been really good about that, Ryan, and letting people know what their options are for financial resources. And we're already doing this, storytelling about the businesses, not so much promoting the business and what they're selling or what they're doing, but the story behind it that will get people involved that way, which was good to know we're doing that. Be visible. And I think we're talking about this, as you said, we need to be a coherent message for the contact us section on our website. Is it easy? On the thread on our Hampshire Facebook group, remember people said, we didn't know this was going on. Thank you for letting us know. So that's huge. If they don't know what we're doing and how we're doing it, that's a major drawback to our success that way. And so that's basically it. So I think I'll throw it out there and see what you guys think, what you want to do. But from Main Street's perspective, it is more successful and more powerful when it's a separate Main Street organization working.
Susie, was this a paid organization? I mean, paid group of people and they volunteers? Who? A separate Main Street.
That run the call.
Usually the director is paid, everybody else is all volunteers.
So it's almost like you kind of said, it's a similar to a Chamber of Commerce, right? But instead more representative of the community with the
Right.
residents, as opposed to the Chamber of Commerce has a director and a focus on business.
But every single person that was on the calls with me were paid. They were heads of Main Street organizations. Some were paid by the local government. Some were paid by being a nonprofit, by the generated funds within the organization. Sure.
Was there any discussion on which was,
They all felt being
Efficient,
separate
which was
from
better.
government was better.
pardon me,
Separate from government was
as
better,
a 501c3?
right? Because that way they could be their own entity. And then they weren't, if you have a change in government, that could change in how that person's
Sure.
done.
And sometimes private donors are a lot more generous.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Sometimes.
Well, I think this has sort of been the crossroads. And that's why the second thing right after your presentation is the formation of the Main Street Committee. We sort of have been on this back and forth, and I don't know, so I think that's really where we're at the precipice of, you know, I look at the beautification committee and the success that that's had, obviously, a lot of, big shout out to Bill and his leadership. But allowing them to sort of operate separate of us and sort of do some of that work, I think has actually been really good. Not only that, but it's also pulled more community people in that are participating and being involved in, which I think is good. But I don't know, what does the group think? I mean, do we think that there is enough Main Street work to do for us to at least endorse, encourage, and participate in the formation of a separate Main Street community?
I'd like to ask what you think your village board thinks.
So, Jay, I think what we do on the, and I've said this probably for a while, and it's just what I believe is most of the board, these are things that, you know, we invite them to come visit us and join us and to participate and observe, and they just don't come. And so what we do is, you know, it's like my kids that are successful in getting us, my wife and I, to do things, come very prepared and organized, and they've had 10 steps thought ahead of it before we have, you know? And so that's what I kind of look at is the board is pretty okay as long as whatever we're doing, we've got, you know, good reasons for it, it makes sense. They can't find a, you know, a fly in the ointment or anything like that. So, and I know that's not necessarily what we want to hear. I mean, it'd be nice to have, you know, regular board members come and, you know, observe what we do. I do give a report on what we do at every village meeting. My report's always, just about always the longest. But I would think they would support anything that we brought to them that was organized and well done and answer that question.
Two thoughts from my side.
Yeah.
One would be, it was hard to envision what a Main Street community would do up until Wednesday night. I think Wednesday night for me shifted my philosophy 180 degrees because if we establish Main Street as being where it's at and it actually now has infrastructure to support that, now there's a lot of work to do. Before, if we didn't have that project, we're just relegated to waiting for businesses to come downtown, right? And there's only so much you can do to keep that workload up. The second thing is, I think what you hit on is establishing clear guidelines of what the chamber is going to do and what, you know, we're going to do or the Main Street, because I think there's always been gray, and if anybody can get us cleared up, I think Jeannie, in collaboration with us, can really draw some defined lines. Because I think in years past, we had conversations where the chamber was creating festivals and things like that. Well, is that outside the scope of supporting businesses? I don't know. It's probably in tandem. But I agree with both. I just think the Main Street board or whatever formulation that is probably, if and when we get this thing approved and we start planning, it could probably be kicked off in theory at the same time that that project is kicked off.
I think if you get somebody to head that Main Street organization that is a real go-getter and has a vision and wants the best for downtown Hampshire, it's separate from how many businesses can we draw in?
Correct.
What is best for the community?
Right.
And I think once we get this going, then that's going to entail more than just getting businesses there. It's going to be meeting the needs of the community. It's going to take a leader. It's going to take somebody who wants it, wants to work at it, and is dedicated to improvement.
Well, I think one of the things you bring up, and this is one of the things I think, if you look at how Hampshire does things now, we stumble a little bit. We really are requiring the chamber to do a lot of our event organizations. And they're sort of kind of caught in some ways between serving their businesses and putting on an event that sort of brings the community together. And I think that having a Main Street community that could be sort of thick, because that actually is, you just were talking and it made me think, I don't think that you guys think, but I think just even the very origin part of this committee could be to organize community events, you know, in our downtown space. One of
That's
the
what
main
Main
things.
Street would do.
Yes, and sort of, I think Jeannie would be, you know, I think really she should sit on, that's just my opinion.
Well, that's
I've
what
said
they
that from the
suggested.
beginning.
you know, somebody from the churches, clubs, organizations, chamber of
Yes,
commerce,
yes.
village board, you know, every is all a part of it.
Yes.
You know, also we have people on the Hampshire page, so if they knew where they volunteer,
Yes.
there's an opportunity maybe
Yes.
to take them up on.
Yes.
Right.
I think an offshoot of this conversation, you touched on it, was when I published the survey, it was clear, again, that I think, and again, it's up to us on how much we can give this, but I think there's a different perception of the residents of what government's job is, and Mike as well as Brian did a really good job of trying to answer that, but what our role is in driving businesses to Hampshire. I think the majority, just based on the comments, the majority think that it's up to us to get a Starbucks here, right? We're like 25% of the formula, you know, we're not even half. You gotta have somebody willing to invest, you gotta have property, you gotta have a lot of things in place. Does it make sense for us at some point, this is a little bit of an offshoot, but for us to educate the public of how businesses come here and how they thrive here? And just, you know, by supporting small business, by shopping, we'll kind of get into that. But I think it kind of goes in tandem with if we get people from the village to participate in a board, how do we also educate that they can be part of the solution? They're not part of the problem, but part of the solution.
Well, I think to Elaine's point and yours, if we were to have a Main Street organization, all these people that are interested, speaking as a person who didn't understand government and how things run, knowing that there's some place to be a part of something but not government related is much less scarier than saying,
Sure.
"Be on this village committee."
Right.
Sure.
That's true.
Karen, Karen and Bill, just curious to get your guys' thoughts on, do we think it makes sense, and jump in, whoever wants to first, do you think it makes sense for us to form a separate committee?
I think it's worth some further thought and discussion. Susie, did any of the existing Main Street entities that you may have interacted with, did any of them go into any detail about some of the activities and things that they may do, what capacity they serve? You said that like the chairman or the paid spokesperson was present. Did they give any examples of tangible things that they've done that contributed to?
Yes, and the point, which is the Main Street like blog, there's tons of ideas in there. So they are spearheading those ideas from their committee head position. But that's a lot of work. It could be like a part-time job or something. But yeah, they do lots of events, supporting the community, education in the community.
Have we defined in the village of who handles events? Who handles Coon Creek? Who does that?
That's a separate committee called the Coon Creek Committee. So that's,
They could
again,
be a part of the Main Street committee.
yeah.
Right.
Was
We could
this,
envelop everybody.
was this class in, pardon me, I didn't see this on there. Was it through like a Main Street America?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just jumped on their website really quick and there's so much information
I know.
out there and resources.
Yes.
I think it's a fabulous idea. I think if you can get someone to take over that position initially, maybe as a volunteer, and, you know, we can have discussion about whether or not that becomes a paid position, or if we're in a position to make that a paid position, or maybe someone is just really passionate, and for whatever reason wants to dedicate their time. I know I know people that are on historic societies, they're just passionate about this type of endeavor that they may commit to doing it at least on a part-time basis without being paid. But earlier you guys were talking about farmers markets, and you know, I don't see that as a chamber responsibility. I don't see that as necessarily, it could be a village responsibility, but I think if you had a dedicated Main Street, I wish Barrington had one. Maybe we do, I don't even know. But boy, I think we could certainly be better served by using it, because I think it would be a great catalyst between the community and a specific organization that talks about shop small. What does Small Business Saturday mean?
Right,
What, you know,
right,
why is
right.
the local farmers market important? What makes, and Hampshire is so just charming and, you know, cute, that it would just be great to have an organization that really focuses on that Main Street. And like you said in the last meeting, Ryan, I don't know how I'm paraphrasing, but if we're gonna do this, we're gonna go all in.
Right.
And to me, this just seems like a natural part of that is just having a dedicated committee to doing that. So if you think that there's people here that would be willing to volunteer, great.
Yeah,
That's what they say.
yeah,
I think you do. I think especially the clubs in town, like that's the ones that I think are the untapped resource that we just don't call. Any idea how many organizations we have?
I did that. We did that on Facebook when I first got elected. There's a lot. There's a lot of organizations, because I was just trying to get a list of all the different clubs that exist. And I've got it somewhere on my computer, but it's a lot more than you think. I mean, between the Knights of Columbus, the Lions Club, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's quite a few people.
That could be part of your.
Yeah, Ian, what are your thoughts? What do you think?
Downy Downer?
Yes, I'm looking for, what Abraham Lincoln said, if everyone agrees that.
I mean, I think it's a fantastic idea, but, all right, you, 501c3 is the incorporation and taxes and an attorney to assemble it. And I think it's an awesome idea, I'm just thinking like this, if that volunteer is gonna be kind of a halftime, all that person does for a time, so you gotta have somebody that's leads Hampshire, and loves Hampshire, and Susan, what are you doing?
Well, you took the words out of my mouth, Dan.
She's raising her hand.
Or somebody like the Susie,
Yeah,
or Bill, but I mean, but we all have day jobs and stuff like that, and this is a day job, so it's, and having been on several 501c3 boards, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's
And
not-
so, and then you gotta, no, that's fine. It's just, that then you gotta figure out what to do for fundraisers and the village is not in a position to
no, we're not.
write a check for $50,000 and then they gotta match it, so.
Right.
I don't think they're even in a position to write $5,000 for that.
Well, let
I
me,
don't know.
Could we have an organization that wasn't incorporated as a 501c3?
Yeah, no, because you'd want to have the ability that if organizations in the village wanted to write something to it, they would love to have the donation part of it.
Got it.
So I think in order to approach the businesses or approach some key individuals in Hampshire that would support something like this, I think they might, but I think it'd be a lot happier if they could put it off the taxes.
Got it. Good point.
So, and I think that, and so I agree with you, and that was one of the thoughts that I had. However, I think one of the things that we've done really well, and I think we can do again, is we've done a pretty good job of building medium steps, right? And I think what you're talking about is the full step, and I think even Karen alluded to it. Having a full-time person, I think, is our end game, right? That's where we want to go eventually. But I really think that there is an opportunity here. Like my wife is, she was the president of the Hampshire Club, right? And for the high school. And it's a big job, right? It's a big job. And sometimes, I wonder, if I get, it's a lot of time for no pay. But because, if they see what her and her group has done at the school, they've added, screening to the fences, they put, for the softball team, for the baseball team, they're raising money to put in a football field. And it's 4 women, right? At the end of the day, 4 women and two gentlemen. They're all totally volunteer, that are all sort of doing it. And it would be, they run a concession stand, which is a huge thing. Like I never knew running a concession stand was such a big deal. All volunteer. I guess my opinion is, I think it's worth a shot. That's my thinking. And go ahead.
The only thing, you need somebody to lead that has a skill set, not just the enthusiasm. They have to have a skill set too. That's a hard fill. Somebody might be really good at one part of it, but if you don't know how to get donations, that's kind of a key portion.
But I'm kind of thinking when we get this whole streetscape down here, I'm thinking what East Dundee does is they're kind of nice though because they got the square. It's kind of like anything with the Woodstock, you have the wind down Wednesdays, you get the car show,
Yes.
you get things. So who's your organizer? Because I think they themselves do.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things, I agree. And that's one thing when I first started here, and I said I wanted to start the beautification committee. The first thing the board said to me is like, well, who are you gonna get to be on that committee, right? And we've had no problem, I mean, getting people to join, right? I think there's stored up desire within our community of people to want to participate, right? They just need that vehicle.
They don't know where.
Yeah, and they need to be aware of it. And I think then if it's organized, it's well done, it's professional, right? Because I think, and you need some, I mean, honestly, Bill, I believe that the beautification committee, I mean, your love of, and that's what I've noticed from you from the beginning, is you just love like buildings, like the way buildings go together, how they go together. Like if I'm at a 2, you're like 10, you know, and that's a key to that. And so it would be important for us to find, you know, whoever it is that does this, that is that passionate, talented, and then we can then offer, you know, I think it would be good for us to have someone on that board. I think Gina should be on that board. I think whether it's Park District, someone from the Park District is on that board, maybe one, you know, a couple of the committees. And that's just my opinion. So I think it's worth trying. And, you know, all great entrepreneurs, right? I mean, you might lose, you might fail, but you never know until you give it a shot. And sure enough, I mean, so far we've had a pretty good track record. I think it's worth it. That's just my opinion.
Well, and if I could add, this might be the perfect time with the way that businesses are, whether you find someone who is retired by choice or by chance, whether you find someone who's staying at home, because it can be a very big job, and a lot of people have day jobs, right? And they don't have, you know, their hours are limited in the evening. But if you've got someone who's working from home, someone who's raising kids, someone who's recently retired, there are so many people that might be looking for an avenue to use that skill set and just don't have that opportunity. I mean, that's how I think a lot of people wind up leading these types of committees and organizations, is because they're looking for an outlet to use the skills that
When you get.
That's true, that's true.
When you get a bunch of new people together, they gotta find their rhythm.
Yeah.
Right, and just making sure, how do you work effectively together? And
you look at this as a 5-year plan and not a 5-month plan, right?
Although they told us because of COVID, we should not plan out more than 6 months.
No, I know, I'm just saying
Okay.
like the longevity of the.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe the first event is the unveiling of the
Yeah,
Downtown.
downtown.
in maintenance,
Yeah, do a party,
yeah.
like a,
There's probably,
A ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
type of stuff.
thank you.
But you could have some street vendors and some music.
Absolutely. And then Jeannie can help, right, organize that. So do we feel like we want to try to do this?
I think it's a great idea to do it, it's just.
No, and I totally appreciate that
Baby
perspective.
steps are, you know, just, you know, what,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
have to buy the apple, what type of the apple, flower of the apple you want to pick first.
yeah.
because if you look in the rearview mirror, after a year or two, you might have enough work that could facilitate making an LLC of some sort,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Wouldn't it be, if it came to the point where you had one of those, storyboard in the middle of the festival street that said, these are the upcoming events?
Yeah.
It'd be just so cool.
I think that would be awesome. And I think, yes, and those are all achievable things, right? If you get a group of people together, right? And, you know, I think Dave's point is great. And I think, well, I think everybody's point is good. But the idea is, I think our expectations should be going around a 5-year goal of what it would like to, knowing that we're gonna be, you know, it's gonna stumble, it's gonna struggle a little bit, we're gonna make an effort for it, but I think there could be real value to the people that live here. I think eventually to the business as well.
Perhaps what we could do, if we get the streetscape plan approved through the board, we could do a kickoff Main Street, come and see the plans for the future
Mhm.
and invite every single group
That's a great idea.
to come and see
That is
it.
a great idea.
And I feel very confident that when this facade or when the streetscape gets approved, we're not gonna have a problem with inventory and facades falling apart on Main Street.
Well, as I've told all the people I've talked to about the size, as I said, hey, we're offering you an olive branch first. But if you don't take it, the hammer's coming.
No,
back.
I'm saying if you.
You know what I'm saying is, and that's,
You said I could, if you said I could buy the ground floor of something that's gonna have
well,
17 events per year right in front of my business.
yes,
Exactly.
I'm not gonna
That's
have a
all.
problem selling property.
No,
Right.
no, you absolutely.
unless you, yeah, stubborn owners, that's, we'll have to do. Trust me, I know about, I mean, we have some stubborn owners.
Well, and that's a very good point. There may be, and we ran through this in Barrington, there's some, a couple of store owners that don't want to block off the street and they're worried about parking and they don't want to have, which I don't understand, but you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah. So we'll, okay, I love that idea though, about the unveiling of the Main Street as sort of, so why don't we try to target I'll take the lead on that, and if it's okay, I'd like to coordinate with you, Susan. And let's see if we can't coordinate putting together a meeting that we invite a broad spectrum
When
of
do you
groups.
expect us to get approved by the village and?
I actually think that okay, let's put it, 2 days, right?
Is that
2
2
weeks.
weeks?
Oh, we don't think we're gonna, this Thursday, you don't think we will?
We have to have a public hearing beforehand, and there's a
Ah.
7-day
Okay.
advance requirement.
Okay. So, but soon, I guess is the point. And this is just so we all remember, and I have to want to put the Debbie Downer, I'll be the Debbie Downer. The state of Illinois still has to approve the whole
Yeah, we
thing,
still have
right?
to get the money.
We still gotta get the money, but,
Right.
I like so what the village board will be approving is our concept plan that we're gonna send to DCEO, to try to get approved.
So
So
I
now,
would,
we
I
feel good about it.
personally think that we shouldn't rush into a big Main Street kickoff until we get the money and we're further
Okay,
past
I think
COVID.
sure. Yeah, which gives us more time, right? It gives us more time to plan and think. I'm fine with that, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, that's gonna be an action item though. You and I will talk after this and,
You're right, I'm thinking January, February.
I'll be here before you know it. That'll also give you the time to start formulating ideas about possible candidates that you could tap on.
Right.
And also what is going to be the scope of their projects or functions that they're gonna host.
yeah,
It'll give you-
something to present those people when they do come.
Right.
So that it's
Got
not
it.
just, hey, here's some cookies, let's network, right? Because that never works. Okay, all right, good. I think that's a great plan. Susie, always great, great
I didn't mean to be
job.
downer, but I had to be honest, so.
No,
Oh,
that's.
That's fantastic information.
Okay, so,
Question, trustee Pacheco?
No.
Okay. Just clarification, I know you said that long-term 501c3 paid director.
yes.
Did you, and maybe I missed it, discuss what the initial step would be, whether it be a subcommittee or you want to try to have an external group?
I think what we, I think what we'd like to try to do is to take a baby step and sort of try to get all the people together, right? I think the 501c part is gonna be critical if we start to take in money, right, or spend money, but I think that it would be, I think it's possible that that part will, it could be just in coordinating amongst the other 501cs could be the beginning. Right, that Main Street committee could coordinate between the Lions Club, the Boosters Club, I mean, because things we could do for homecoming and all those other things for the high school, because, so my thought is, I think we get the human part of it figured out first, and then as the need or the demand to have some legal, because really at the end of the day, it's just protection, right? You get the legal protection, if you're gonna start taking your money and spending it, then, then the arm of a lawyer, I mean, it incorporates like.
No, we get a lawyer on the committee.
Yeah, well, you get a lawyer on the committee, right?
There you
It's like,
go.
it's like $1,000. I mean, it should be something someone's willing to pro bono, I would think, so.
My real question was just about if you wanted to have a subcommittee. I was trying to figure out how it gets established in Hampshire.
No, I'm thinking,
So I was just making sure.
and I just agree with the group seemed to be, at least as I was hearing it, wanted to be on the side of sort of getting it out of government.
Yeah, getting it out of
I mean,
government.
that-
I just didn't know if it was one of your steps.
Yeah, no, thank you, that's a good question. Okay, Susie, awesome, we'll talk. All right, so just on my side, I had an action item that I accomplished 45 minutes before we met. I uploaded every single document from the Main Street training onto SharePoint, so we have harvested everything now. So, which is great, so what the bill is paid for, it will have now that documentation information into perpetuity, and talk to Josh as future members of the board or future members of BDCs, obviously members live forever, come in, at least we'll be able to point those people. So that's done, that's accomplished. We've gotten all the tests done now, so we've gotten all of them done, except we've got one more to accomplish. And once we get that one accomplished, then
What test is remaining?
there's, I know Bill's gonna get to the design, right?
I thought you had a time limit on the taking.
No, they're pretty cool about it. So I took mine when I took it and they didn't register it. So I went back and because I was communicating with the lady, she goes, oh no, you can just go back and take it whenever you want. So,
Oh, good.
so once we get those done, we'll be fully,
Certified.
certified or whatever. And we need that to get to the next, because I think we're still trying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Susie, we'd like to get to that next level, correct? And that next level, we really need to accomplish these exams in order to achieve that. So I know you and I talked about it, you're gonna get that done. But that's good, great news. So I think we've lived up to our charge. The village gave us money, trusted us, and I think between the reports that we've done, all the documents that we now have, I think we've certainly lived up to our end of the market. So that's really.
And you know what? We backed out of going to the convention because we thought this was better and they ended up canceling the convention anyway. So that saved us all our airfare.
I know. What I think to me, having all the different people do it was huge, right? And presenting that information here in front of us, I mean, we learn more that way than sending one person to a convention. So, okay, awesome. Great job with Main Street. I see some really great things coming in the future, so that's gonna be cool. Okay. Mr. Swalwell,
Yes.
the meat of the meeting here, our big part of the meet, is I'm gonna turn it over to you. And beautification report.
What I have for you is, I think I have forwarded these to everyone already. I have a limited number of these copies, but I guess
I've got.
you've got one. I haven't seen this yet.
It was the email I sent out. So,
I went down to-
You want to share?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, the attachment.
No, I didn't.
okay.
This
Well,
is
they
the-
didn't see it.
Just go ahead and take a look at it. I've only got two left. We're passing down.
And I've got one here too, so.
Does everybody know what building we're talking about here? It's back, the old Fifth Third across the
You
street.
start with her, Christine, yeah,
Christine Michelle Talon.
not that.
Mother stopped on the street today.
I saw that.
You've seen some of that?
I saw the salon one. I didn't see.
That's the salon. It was one of the same.
I see.
Yeah, those
Oh,
are
I
the,
just saw the inside. Okay.
uh,
Oh, wait, no, I'm thinking of something else.
Okay. The program, supports the preservation of masonry. It gets real touchy, but I guess when they did the guidelines originally, it was, strong emphasis on preservation and restoration of existing masonry and original architectural features. This building doesn't really have a lot, of features. It has masonry, but due to the various changes in use of the building over the years, it kind of boogered up the masonry. It's there, but it's deteriorating. They've relocated the night depository at least 2 times, the ATM because of the existing masonry there is not worth saving. It's been patched with different size bricks, different color bricks. It's just a mess. I went over and really took a good look at it. It's not worth saving. So with that being said, the owners come to the realization that they love the masonry, they want to keep it, but they can't restore it. So the plan and the proposal includes removal of the masonry on the entire front facade and replacement with a new, not a veneer, but a full masonry front, masonry face. This is what she's looking at doing. It's kind of a distressed antique brick, what do you want to call it, worn. They're gonna replace this primarily on the front elevation, which faces west, which is facing the village hall. The existing masonry over on the north side, which borders the alley, is in bad shape as well, and that's gonna come down, but what they're gonna replace it with is new siding that is gonna be on, I'll call it the addition that's on the back. The bank added that probably 20-25 years ago. That's all done in cedar right now, and it's obviously a maintenance issue with paint. You know all about maintenance with wood. So they're gonna go with, I guess it's a concrete sort of board. Yes, this is hardy plank, yep. It's basically cement. It comes pre-painted. And these are the 2 colors. One is the color, the other is the trim color. She told me, and I forget which is which. But this material will be on the back part of the building, which is the addition. And then, the north side of what is now masonry on the alley. And then on the side where they added the addition to the ATM, there's now a hallway there. So the 2 materials that you'll see when they're all done is masonry on the front and or hardy board on the rest of it. Those are the colors and kind of the layout. If you go to the 3rd page of that, this is one area where whatever comments you would have, actually the 4th page, sorry. It shows you the masonry design. And one thing they haven't decided yet, and they're looking for this committee's input, is what type of keystones or decorative elements you would like over the window openings. Right now, there's 3 window openings and 1 door. They're gonna replace the old bank entrance door with a window. So it's gonna be 4 windows, 2 above, 2 below. And she's looking for feedback and input on the soldier's course that divides the 1st and 2nd floor. This is just kind of a concept plan. This isn't done. And then the keystone work above each of the doors, or the windows, I'm sorry. She's gonna relocate the entrance for the building will be where the old ATM was. They're gonna reuse the existing commercial door. They're gonna have it painted to complement the existing colors or the final colors. But she's looking for some input on the brick, if anybody has it. The keystones and the soldier's course right across there.
You're the building expert.
Pardon?
You're the building expert. What's your suggestion?
All right, the soldier's course looks fine, divided 1st and 2nd story. The keystone work, I think she needs a little bit more, few more
Yeah.
suggestions. It's just 1 keystone, and I thought, come on, you're doing this once, do it right. For the additional cost, what would be based on what she's already spending? The additional cost of a keystone that's historically correct or more historically correct. And we kind of talked about that at the beautification level. So that's one thing that I saw. Other than that, originally the plan came in with a light fixture up in the gable, right smack in the center of the triangle of the gable. And I saw that, I just, all right, don't take this the wrong way, but
hints.
Yeah, I think Ian must see, that was not in that one that I sent to you guys, so you'll have this to help.
Yeah, take a minute to digest that.
I do appreciate, I noticed the materials that she's looking to use, maybe, she's looking to put more than windows in. I mean, that's, she's not skipping anything that she's trying to put in there, which I appreciate.
The scope of the project plus the elements that she's incorporating are definitely ambitious. They bought the building, she's moving forward. Really excited. She's very open to suggestions and any input that this committee might have. Very responsive to feedback, very flexible and real excited. Now, there are a couple of windows that they're going to eliminate. There's one on the north side that faces the alley on the older part, the brick part, which is the front part. They need that wall on the north, and the same with the south wall. There's a window over there that both have to be eliminated because they're gonna have their stations or sinks along those two walls. They want the front to be the focal, and I'm like, bring it on. But those two sides, is that a deal breaker? I said, I don't know, I'll bring it up to the committee. I understand why they're doing it. It's not a cost saving, it's not a practicality, and they need it. So, other than that, the bid for the windows I have, we've already reviewed. I forwarded that on. I think I may have already forwarded, but it's a bid for all the windows. And then the fifth one, somebody asked, what's this little octagon? There's one in the back already. It's either deteriorated. I think she said it was partly rotten, and secondly, it doesn't open, and they want it to open. So they're replacing that as well. But you don't see that. Well, you see it from Maple, but you don't see it from State. Other than that, the windows are pretty straightforward. What else?
I'm not seeing the totally, which page?
Yeah, it's in what I attached, it's 46,426, is that right, Bill?
47,000, 620 was the
Okay.
total on it. And we went through this item by item and bid by bid at the beautification level, because there was a discrepancy I couldn't identify, but in the meeting we did. Whatever it was minor.
And can you share what the beautification's recommendation was? We should have done that.
Based on the size of the project and the effect that it would have on the overall appearance of the building, the beautification recommended 75% of the total project. 75% for the person that's up to BDC to ratify.
Right, no, it'd just be nice to know what the beautification committee.
Everyone was excited about the program. I mean, what she's gonna do, what her plans are. This is one of the more significant ones, I would have to say. Maybe not as dramatic as Copper Barrel, but it's kind of getting that direction.
I think it's
My opinion.
And it's on Main Street.
And it's
Right
Main
there.
Street.
And that-
Give us something really nice to look at. No, it would look like, they're looking beautiful.
There's a couple other features about what she intends to do. Right now, you'll see a masonry or a concrete knee wall that was poured around to support the existing brick facade because it was in such bad shape and deteriorating. They were really struggling with that, what to do with it, what purpose it served. The mason came out and looked at it. He says they did that as kind of a Band-Aid to support and patch what was there. They're proposing that come out. That's why in the bids, you'll see an estimate for concrete sawing. They have to saw the sidewalk to separate it from what was poured. I don't know if it was a uniform, they did it once, but they said we have to cut this score. So there's some concrete cutting costs in there as well.
They probably tied it with rebar inside.
But that'll be eliminated, the masonry will come right down to the sidewalk, up enough so that, it doesn't deteriorate, but.
And the roof is fine?
The roof is in good shape, from what they can see, or at least it's not part of the grant request that they've submitted.
Like that.
Billion for detail for Keystone,
Yeah,
something simple. You did a soldier course, covered the shoulders with a window. The Keystone right in the middle.
that's great.
Work has to be.
Can you send that to me or text it to me? Because her mother was asking my husband today, if they want to get going on the windows. So if they're looking for ideas, or give it to Bill and let him.
Oh, that's
Let
fine.
me see if I can do this. You're not looking at the most technology challenge.
Do you have an iPhone?
Hell no.
Oh, I was gonna say your hair's there.
My brother not believe in buying technology that's free.
Never mind, send it to Bill.
So they're asking for, grant of 30.
47,620, but our 75% would go to 35%.
35%.
Yeah.
breakdown of the cost. The first was the demolition and the saw cutting of the sidewalk, and then the demolition of the knee wall. There's also a concrete ramp that they have to eliminate that's inside the front door. When you step in that vestibule or whatever, it's open. There's a concrete ramp that has to be busted out. The masonry, of course, the demolition of the existing facade, then the rebuilding of the new facade, which includes the materials and the labor. And they're gonna be installing limestone sills underneath the windows, which, yeah, it does look like that. So, that'll look real nice. The keystone detailing above the four windows only on the front. Then they had a soldier's course running across the front of contrasting brick. They include the labor for the siding installation, wrap the house with Tyvek beforehand, and the material for the hardy board. And the material was listed separately from the installation of it. The installation of the siding and the new gable trim and the windows were going to be installed by a carpenter. That's in here separately. And then the front windows and the octagon window were separate. Lamps and lighting. They've got, I think, 2 fixtures on the facade, which are just immediately below the 2 windows that are on the second floor. They kind of resemble the ones on Corkshire. And everybody was like, "Ooh," because they had continuity and consistency. And then there's a hung fixture that's gonna go over the door. It's a metal kind of comes out and it's got lights that shine down. So it serves multiple purposes. It lights the entryway, but also eventually lights whatever signage you might hang out there. So it'll serve as a kind of a point, and it sticks out, it protrudes from the building.
Okay.
47,000 sounds really decent. Okay, in the windows, isn't it?
Just me.
Yeah.
I know how much my windows cost in my house.
I know, I was wondering.
They're half as good as what you, I mean, it's.
I think we gave what Copper got 64, I think.
Did they?
So, I mean, we're talking about a relatively significant transformation of a key building in the downtown, in the, let's just start calling it. That's not in the festival block, but it's close to the festival.
We can call it the festival corridor.
There we
There you
go.
Yeah.
I know, what do we think, guys?
I,
Should we take a vote?
Yeah, I mean, I just,
I'll make a motion to approve Christina Michelle's facade for 75% papers.
I second.
okay, this, because it's money, we'll have to do a roll call. So, Dave, you got me? So there's a motion on the floor to approve the application for facade funding for Christina Michelle Salon at 75% rate for a total grant award of $35,715.07. I will now call each commission member. Elaine, okay. Ian Land,
Yes.
Dave Pizzolato,
Yes.
Susie Lopez,
Yes.
Bill Swallow, aye. Karen Trask,
I,
Ryan Krajewski, aye as well. So in Linda Vasquez fashion, the motion passes 7-0. And so we're good. Fantastic. Thank you, Bill. That was an excellent presentation. And I think a no-brainer. So
Do you have anything
that's
on video
exciting.
channel?
Yes,
Oh, yes.
which brings us to the next item,
This comes,
if that's okay, trustee Krajewski.
this one's a little bit more.
This, I just got these plans about 15 minutes before the meeting. So forgive me, I forwarded them to as many of the email addresses as I could find, but let me show you what the change was. This is an application for the Vintage Hammer, the resale shop or antique shop in the old bowling alley. Christine Klein is the applicant, and she's looking to do basically an awning and some facade repair and renovation, restoration of the existing masonry. On the south-facing elevation over on Washington, she has face brick. It's brown, kind of a coarse texture. The remaining 2 elevations, which faces east and north, are just CMU cinder block, and they're painted. And that's where a good portion of the tuck pointing needs to be done. All 3 elevations are visible from either Washington Street or from as you come over the railroad tracks. You can see the back. And then the side of the building, of course, is visible from Washington, much like the GABR building was. So they've got some tuck pointing issues that need to be addressed. They have water infiltrating the wall on 2 elevations. And so it's not only just the preservation of what's there, but also to stop the leak. The leaking water has made its way into the wooden awning that's on the elevation. The wooden ceiling is starting to rot out. It's got issues. Problem with this project is that the building, she owns half of the building, and the awning runs the full length of the building. So one of the points that the beautification committee had was, we got to see what this is going to look like finished, because the proposal included just the new awning over her building, and it was just like ignored the other part. But everybody was like, well, wait. The application you've submitted is to cut that in half, taper the one end or chamfer the one end so it looks normal again, the other half, and then to do the new overhang. One of the points was, well, how can we award or even entertain a grant for a request of modifying a neighboring building's awning? Number one, take that out, we can't do that. And number two, we want to see like a conceptual idea of what this would look like with the old awning on one half and the new awning on the other. That was kind of an important thing. So she just got that to me today. So this is, if you guys want to pass this around, that's the new updated facade.
And Josh, I'm gonna send this to you, you can throw it up, this one actually has the pictures in it, unlike the last one I sent you.
This is how it looks now.
I saw the rendering before, they had like rods.
And it does still include rods, it may not show up on that.
Yeah, it just.
Software, but the support, there's 4 like 1-inch diameter rods that will be connected to a plate that's anchored into the masonry parapet wall. And that's what will primarily serve as a support, and it still does include that. It just doesn't show up on that newest.
So, Bill, you might not be able to answer this, but in this rendering here, it shows the signage would be here with some kind of lighting above it. This one here shows that it would just be like a diner sign that comes up.
It will be the diner sign. When they did the initial rendition of the building, she said, I'm planning on going with a sign that's perpendicular. It's gonna stick out, like you said. So that most recent drawing is correct. And this is the electrical details. Again, this is like the, what do you call it? It's not caffeine, kind of like a.
I call them like boathouse lights,
Yeah.
you know?
She's still up in the air on what shade she's gonna do, and I said, I don't think that's, as long as it's not a crazy color or something, something consistent, and she's, I think black or whatever, but that's the lighting sample of what she's gonna do. And then the initial, contractor's proposal is about 11 grand. The newest one I have, which I forwarded, is 19. Let me explain the differences. After I walked the property with her, after I got the first proposal, I've been out there twice. After I got the initial, I went back over there to look at it. I said, let's walk around and talk about why the masonry work, the tuck pointing that you're gonna be doing, you've got issues on 3 elevations, but you've only included the cost to do 2. Why? And she's like, yeah, you're right. It is visible from State Street, so therefore it qualifies as part of the program.
Yeah.
And I said, this is just as bad back here. She says, all right, you're right. Let me get a revised proposal together. Because she also had to eliminate the cutting of the existing canopy and the repair to the neighbor's canopy on that side.
Right.
She had to do it anyway. So Jeff, the contractor, has given us a new proposal, and the total of it is, I think it's 19. Let me grab that. Yep.
Yeah, it's 19, I think.
This is, and I forwarded this to, I think I hit everybody. And I've got 2 more email addresses. In fact, I have to get yours before I go,
No
so I
problem.
can send it to you as well. So I've got some dollar amounts. Let me tell you what the impression and discussion was at the committee level. They talked about the overall impression and what it's gonna do to the building. And yes, it's a really kind of a cool canopy. Everyone was like that. Let me, before I get into the comments of the committee, let me tell you a little bit about the lighting that she's proposing on it. Again, the 2 fixtures will be consistent with, what's that copper barrel. Then also the electric bid included to have a timer installed at the panel, which normally wouldn't be a big deal. My question was, where's the panel? Is it all the way at the back of the building, or it happens to be on the front? So the addition of the timer didn't concern me. Lights will go on and off on their own. And then secondly, she's adding an outlet, proposing that an outlet be added to the awning so that kind of those cool Edison bulbs, like the strings of them, can be hung. She doesn't want anything permanent in case they fail. She can plug them in or unplug them. It can be seasonal. She has it pretty well thought out in terms of what she wants to do, I thought. So that's the lighting component of the project. So we got the awning, the lighting, and then the tuck pointing. I took some photographs of the failed masonry, the joints, some of the bricks have cracked, the mortar is definitely cracked. She's getting water inside the building as well as into the awning, the wooden awning that is rotted and they're proposing to be removed. So I think one of the biggest things that the project comes down to is aesthetics and what you guys think of the finished product of the facade and the fact that there's two different awnings. This is the proposal right now as it is. There's two different, the end result will be two different awnings.
Who owns that other side of the building?
I was gonna say, have they talked to the owners? I mean,
Yes, and that was the first question I had with Christine. And the answer I got, I thought was interesting. She says, well, I've already explained it to them, but they want to see how it's gonna look first. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, okay. So go ahead and do yours, of course. I thought the same thing. I'm like, consistency, the facade is identical. It's one uniform facade. The brickwork is the same.
What is that business
It's
name?
ASAP, I thought they were garage doors.
something like garage doors.
They are garage doors.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And they've got, you don't see it there.
But the ask you, the photo shows a garage door on, to the left of the.
There is a photo. That design does not show it. You're right. This is it's an overhead door. Yeah. It had been built in with plywood.
Yeah, whoever did the 3D model didn't do it.
Are both of those awnings connected or is there?
It's all one?
There's a
Yeah,
gap.
yeah, that's
Well,
on,
today it's all one.
Pardon me?
that's on the email,
Cutting in.
Oh, yes, okay.
But there's still two.
but thank you for this.
Yeah, but now they're one big awning that's connected, yes.
But
But in the concept, are they still connected?
no, they'll be separate.
Separated, they would stop that.
There'll be two completely different types of awnings. And that, I guess, was the biggest bone of contention that the beautification committee had. And we just now this is what it's going to look like. This just came today. So,
Except there'll be rods coming down, right?
yes.
Like we saw in the original proposal.
not a thing.
Rods coming down here,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll show you what it looks like.
Yeah, can we get Karen a picture
yeah, I wonder how that
so
was.
she can see?
I saw it on
Is it
the
that one?
drawing.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it, I got it.
You got it.
Yep, thank you. Oh, that looks better.
I'm not a fan of the sign.
Just the one of the same.
Of the
Is that a
sign.
rough placement or is it?
Did you just send a new picture?
It's that one right.
It's this one
It's just-
here. The signage that she's currently decided upon is the perpendicular where it sticks out, like.
I mean, it'd be so much, again, it's all taste, but it'd be better suited if it was more laser cut or out of metal. Or, I mean, just a, right, like that to me just reminds me of like a diner.
Yeah, you jokes.
Well, that's the type of feedback I'm more than happy to pass along in terms of the village or at least the BDC has some opinions on the signage and maybe we'd like to see it before you, hey, this is just a rough, I think.
I mean, has
They would have
somebody,
paid for the stuff.
has somebody approved the fact that you can cut that awning and make those changes structurally?
Yes.
I wouldn't know that. I was,
Because that would concern me. To approve it, say you're gonna do this, but then you find out that that's gonna screw up the awning for the
well,
entire.
then the project's dead. They're submitting a grant for consideration based on what we see. If code or enforcement or structure doesn't allow what she's proposing, well, then she's gotta go back to the drawing board. We're considering, I guess, based on what she's proposing. This is assuming it goes forward and it will fly. If it doesn't, then absolutely.
Well, I think I like, you took it and separated them. I think that's, that's the look that she's going for, that's cool, but it just looks awkward.
Looks what?
Awkward. It looks like maybe could something be done to soften the transition between the two or to separate them just a little bit more, something? I have no idea, but an idea in my head, but it looks like like I like her idea. But it seems like there needs to be more definition between the two.
Or, and this is one of the things that came up at the other level. One of the things I walk away with is if she was a standalone building, this wouldn't be a discussion.
Yeah.
Or plan B along
Right.
your line, what's the neighbor doing?
Right.
If it was the whole building, I don't think this would be a discussion or an issue, but, and this was exactly why the beautification committee said, we gotta see this. Show me the money, show me what it looks like, and this is what she produced, so you're raising the right questions and making the right points, I agree with you.
And what happens if we're responsible for creating this patch, right? I mean, is that something that we're responsible for moving forward? Like, can that owner come and say, well, you guys did this and now I've got to leave?
Well, with today's legal environment, you're right, anything's possible, and with, we would want some sort of a hold harmless letter or something, but, we're not doing it, okay, first of all, we're just simply issuing a grant.
Oh,
You
right,
raised a
right,
valid
right.
point,
Okay.
but you raised a valid point. The contractor and Christine would want him to sign a hold harmless agreement of some type. But you raised a good point.
Had we talked to the owner? Did you say that she talked to the owner?
She talked to the
and He wanted to see how it would
I
look.
want to
What
see
if-
how it looks first.
What if we paid a visit to the owner and said,
That's what I
I
do.
also don't want our money to be given and they start the project and then not finish it. And then here's its a building from.
Well, they don't get their money till it is completed.
Okay,
They actually have to pay for it themselves, and then they have to show us all their paid invoices, probably for the reason that you just described.
Well, I don't want you to speak on behalf of the beautification committee, but from your personal, specific to that committee, I noticed 50% reimbursement was
Yes.
based on whatever was presented before. Do you feel personally that if it was all one big facade, that would also change, or no? Do you feel like the awning, whether or not it's both buildings or one building, still is at a 50% reimbursement?
The discussion on the percentage contribution did come up, and the committee felt that the degree of improvement to the building wasn't enough to warrant a 75 or more than 50%.
Okay.
And in fact, I think they may have talked about an even lesser contribution or holding off altogether. But I said, gang, we gotta move this forward. I said, put in whatever caveats into the motion you'd like, and one of them was this, before it moves forward, the artistic rendering, whatever you want to call it. And what was the other? It was something. Go ahead,
I
John.
got a note that I believe their price was to do like a whole bunch of awning stuff and you wanted it separated out. That's the note that I have. I don't really remember what that means.
It was the modification of the neighbors. We can't consider that.
Right.
That's since been removed.
Yes, it has beautification. If you suggest this to us before the meeting, has the beautification meeting seen this?
No, I have not seen this. But the motion was made, we need that before it goes to the next level,
And has the village, what is the village's sign ordinance on signs that will allow that particular sign?
Well, she just won't be allowed to put it up. If she has to apply for a permit, she's gotta comply with current village ordinance, right? We
Well,
all
I
agree?
understand, that's what I'm saying, is she's also going to get that, and I can understand what you wanted to see, but
And we're not paying for this, we can't reimburse the sign, that's
Correct.
against our rules. So she'll be funding that, which is a separation.
I think part of the electrical bid does include running electric to it, because I think she was gonna. Yeah,
You were the one that pointed out to me originally, because remember it was the chiropractic place, we took the cost of the actual printing on the awning of.
signage.
Yeah, and then I went back and it does say in our agreement,
For
for
signage.
signage.
The proposal I have doesn't include any.
Does not have any.
Just so you guys know.
but there's some light pictures in those too, so.
Yeah. Let me comment on those.
Design. So how do we think it looks that way? Do we like how it looks? Because our name is gonna be tied to it.
Not sure what we do.
it doesn't excite me.
And let's be candid. Let me explain something. And Ian, your comments last time, I shared them with the folks doing GABR. And it was only because of your comments that we wound up with what you now see. The word you might use was kind of cookie cutter, kind of general, kind of common.
Yeah.
And they came back with this as a result. So by all means, guys, let it fly. If you have reservations, we can table this. And I can go back to Christine and say, and I can even go back to the beautification committee and rehear this. And say, now that we have this rendition, what do you think now? They had kind of the same reservations, Elaine.
And then you got the person, I'm assuming owns the buildings, it's their building or their half, or it's a condo, because it's the same building, it's just divided up. It's cedar. So cedar's nice and the weather, and in 10 years, they haven't maintained it, or it's ugly, and it's rotting, and you just have a bunch of cedar hanging around there.
The other half is your concern.
The one on the right, the new stuff.
Oh, the
Yeah,
new.
stuff.
The shaker siding that's on the left, it's what the wood color's gonna look at 10 years,
Yeah.
right?
I
Because
mean, what type of, cedar's good outside, but it's a wood product, it needs to be maintained. I had a big argument with the former general manager of the country club when they had this beautiful teak deck put out there and he wasn't maintaining it. It went from this beautiful brown to this ugly gray.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're gonna see in 10 years.
Yeah, you're right. It's quoted to be, or the proposal is, it's rough on cedar.
Yeah.
But you're right, in time,
Yeah.
it's gonna gray.
Yeah.
You're right.
I'm assuming it'll stay in it, but I don't think it'll stay in it. It's just, it's a trellis, I think it's a trellis, it's something you can do back there, it's just a whole hang on to a nice little shaded structure underneath your patio furniture. Yeah, exactly, it's, I was thinking originally when I first saw it, before I saw the details, it was just kind of a flat roof decking type of thing that may be more metally.
It was metal initially.
It's not, it's just wood slab, so.
Well, and then don't forget, you're gonna have these four,
The four struts,
which is gonna,
I'm not saying good matter, otherwise I'm just saying the material out or anything. I'm not saying it's the cloak, keep the element, for kind of thing.
I think the front, I think the facade in the front of the building definitely needs, can improve some, benefit from some work. I don't know, maybe that's the best use.
You know,
It's too soon. I don't know.
it's, after you see the
I
copper
really
barrel,
hard to say it nice.
you see copper barrel, you get off the project we just saw. And again, those are transformative projects, but what Les did with Peterson, right, was he didn't rip off his entire facade, he just kept the brick and just put a nice copper awning and I think in my opinion, I would love to see some kind of design aesthetics that are on par. That doesn't have to be to the same level of restoration, but it looks like it is a little bit nicer. Because you're right, Ian, I mean, nothing's worse than any kind of lumber that's not taken care of. It just turns gray and it becomes like the cedar shape that's on the awnings in town right now. Yeah.
It's on the cave, I think that's the only, and well, they painted Palazzolo's like neon green or something, but,
It's,
So do we want to then, Bill, do you think we should kind of send this back?
I kind of think it.
Feels
Yeah.
I'll provide some feedback to Christine about the design and what we've commented on today.
Yeah.
You're right, the maintenance, the cedar, and maybe, how about, like you said, with copper barrel, maybe something a little bit more that direction.
like Peterson's, I think is a good example of, he didn't go all the way where copper barrel went, but Les took the cedar siding off and just put a new awning that ties in with what's happening.
Existing.
Yeah. Because worst thing that's okay. The worst thing I would hate to have happen is we approve something like this and they buys a dollar store or Closet, and then it becomes a mediocre transformations
Right.
versus
You're right.
something nice.
You have something?
No, I completely agree. I mean, I feel like I really understand why she wants to change it. And I don't know if she's got her final product yet.
Okay, fair enough.
In to Karen's point, either you or me, I think, let's get on the phone to that other business owner and
That's good.
let's talk to that person and let's see if we can't, because I think to Ian's, I think the first point of always feeling the half and half is kind of, And then I think the material, to Ian's point, is another question. But I think if we can bring them both in together, we could do more than just a facade, or we make more of an investment, then I think the group would be more involved and more interested. So we like the idea, we just think it could be better.
and
Yeah.
For all we know, that may be the concern of the neighbor. He may say, he may look at this and go, I don't really like it.
Right,
You know, so maybe if they can work together with us as a facilitator.
yes. Maybe come up with something pretty,
That's good.
something real nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
What is vintage hammer, right? So I'm thinking he's got a bunch of old used hammers and stuff like that. So I mean, is it a bar or what is it?
Antique, it's a store,
Antique.
resale shop where she's got architectural details and elements, which by the way is actually worth going in looking.
Yeah, it's actually really nice.
I'd say, yeah.
Very nice. It's a cool place. It fits everything we're
Okay,
doing.
so that she needs a cool facade. I was just trying to think of some sort of.
Yeah.
That look, and I
Well,
was
this
just,
needs a cool facade.
yeah, and I'm just flipping through facades now, trying to find a cool facade. I'm finding,
And it's a great
Not
point
much yet.
because people just might not,
no,
you
I
know,
don't.
know and are looking for guidance, so.
Right. No, I think that those are great points.
Also, villages, just, if I can interject, did you just find out in our village code that flush mounted signs are not allowed to project more than 12 inches from
Okay.
the wall that is mounted to?
Okay, so she's gonna go with the flesh.
So I would probably let her know that.
I wonder if she could hang something underneath the awning, like a hanging sign that's not mounted to the, it's not mounted to the facade, it's mounted to the.
Maybe that's the difference, if it's on a bracket or, because copper rail currently, and you know they had to go through permit.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
If that sign's allowed, that's kind of along the lines, I think, what Christina Michelle was thinking, and maybe along the lines of what Christine Klein, but I'll mention the signage as well.
So I can, yeah, express that we love the notion that she wants to do something. We just, we're on board, we're supportive. We just like to see things that are a little different. Maybe definitely get that neighbor involved, which definitely I think is what.
I think so, good, no, that's good, at the same time, I'll tell her revised plan, and we'll take it back then to the beautification committee level before it comes back to BDC, so they can look at the proposal like we needed it. So, good input, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bill.
That's good.
Thank you for doing this the right way and going out and meeting with her and talking with her and walking the property, for all of our candidates, because that's really gets us to where we need to be. Anything new on the cave? Have we heard anything from them?
I did meet with them, and they, how do I say this? They have a very ambitious, scope of work. And, there's new ownership, part ownership now, the daughter, I can't remember her name. Gina Ruth is like part owners now, which is neither there, here nor there, but there's two people making these decisions now, at least, or two entities. So I met with the two of them, 2 weeks ago. And they're thinking not only pointing and facade work, which we've seen before, but along the it'd be the south side of the building. There's a staircase over there that takes you up onto a landing that runs all the way along the south side of the building. And it actually turns 90 degrees and goes north.
Oh, wow.
And that's on the west side of the building, which I've never really noticed that.
We're seeing that
I've
until you
been
mentioned it.
going to Lido's Pizza for 15 years and, I've stopped at the bar. I never noticed that. Like, they want to do some sort of awning over it and have seating up there. That wasn't the catalyst of this whole thing. The main thing was tuck pointing, the sidewalks are bad, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. And then this just, they started looking at it, because stairways also qualify, they're a qualifying project. And he says, we gotta redo the stairs. And the roof over it, the siding on it, they wanna do the whole thing. So I don't know if, I won't say they've got more than they could chew, but they just are realizing the magnitude of what this is turning into. And they're well aware of it. And so I was dealing with Dave. Dave and Gina.
And I think Gina's a really big plus to that ownership group, because she's got a lot of really good ideas and she's creative, and that building is a bit of an eyesore in town, and it'd be very nice for them to, so don't forget about the resource bank, the funding mechanism for them.
She was aware of that.
Okay, good. And that's, the only reason is because I know that they've been old cash strapped. And that's one way to sort of overcome that sort of lack of capital, is resource will lend against the, or any other bank, again, without picking sides. I just know that's the program they put together is, so they'll lend against the future project as opposed to them having to come up with money. So,
They were aware of it, and then, what was the other component? So they're in the process of getting the bids now. They hadn't had a masonry contractor out yet to look at the existing masonry. on the east elevation, at some point, portions of the wall had either been removed, filled in, or collapsed, and the masonry work is a lot different. You can see there was something up there. I don't know if it was whatever. Anyway, the masonry and the mortar is in decent shape. It just needs isolated tuck pointing, but the visual, it's kind of like what we encountered with Roy's place where the brick was all hodgepodge, and to affect, want it with a uniform appearance, they stain the brick, and the finished product looks great. This is more than that. They're gonna have to work around, like I said to Gina, here's an idea, where all that brickwork up in the center of the building is different and looks oddballs all get out, staining won't help it. I said, fabricate like a wooden, something that looks like an old barn door from the second floor, you know what I mean, and make it look like it was always there. I said, there's ways to work around this. So they're kind of going back to the drawing board, getting opinions from the mason and what else they can do. The other part of the project was the windows. It has windows on both stories, first and second, and the window openings were larger, and they've gone, downsized the window units. Upstairs, they're just solid sheets of glass or plexiglass, I don't know which. There's no real window unit in the second floor, but the openings are all there. The proposal that they want is they're gonna come back to us with windows and put new windows in the whole place. The ones downstairs too are, they're awning windows is all they are. They open up, but they just crank out one small part of it. And they really, doesn't let, maybe that's by design, it's a cavern. It doesn't let in a lot of light. So they're still kind of working through how big of a window and what to do, but it's, between windows, which is gonna be a costly endeavor, and then the masonry and the tuck pointing is gonna be a costly endeavor. And then the stairwell and whatever else. So they've got a lot to think about and a lot to do, so.
From what I understand too, I don't think you can get to the second story without using the outside staircase.
That's correct. There is no interior stairwell.
Really?
Which
Yeah.
is
It's
unique.
tricky.
It is.
And roofing, I almost forgot roofing. The shingles on the south facing slope are really rough shape. They're baked. I guess that roof was put on that building. It used to have a flat roof, and they went with it like an oddball gable pitch. One is like a 10-12, and the other one's like a 6-12. It's odd. It's kind of bizarre, but the roof, they're due for a new roof. And it is visible from Maple and from Washington. But other than that, yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of, they got a lot to work to do.
Well, get back to us then. We'll, when you got some updates, that's an exciting building, because that's one that.
How big is that deck they want now?
I'm thinking it's probably at least 12 foot wide, the narrow part that runs down the east side. East side. And then the other part is even wider yet. It comes out to like 20, and they were thinking about doing some sort of an awning or a structure that covers it so you can sit outside.
They have an architect about it, because I just got a warning them that now, I don't know what's going on up there now. Nothing, but now you're talking about people, tables, 2 points of access now, so there's no way to get a stair down there. Plus now I think the code's saying with all the money and reservations you're gonna do, it's like, you might have to have on the stairways covered access to up and down the stairs, so. I think we need to get an architect involved.
Yeah. Well, I think once they get to that point,
Yeah.
they figure out one price tag and two, like you
Yeah,
said, 2
yeah.
points of access.
Mhm.
They're gonna look at it and go, okay, we've written up.
I love the idea, but about it.
Yeah.
That's a good point. You're right.
They bring him in here and be up one back and says, yeah, you need this, and this, and they're like,
Yeah.
Thank you for the feedback, guys. Good stuff.
Thank you for all your expertise.
Yeah, well done, Bill. And on the next thing, you just want to update us on wayfinding?
Yes.
Let us know where you guys have gotten to on beautification.
We need to meet again. The last meeting we had, we were gonna discuss the bracketry in detail. One of our members fell ill, so she wasn't able to attend, but she met with, the gentleman at the sign company.
Mike.
Mike Romano. I can never remember his name, but-
I love it. It's like a mind block.
This is kind of currently what they look like. They're black, like the existing signs that are out there, with gold, gold highlights. I thought this was supposed to be gold, but this is just a mock-up. They're gonna be about this size. We stipulated that the fonts need to be of the proper size so you can read it from a 25 mile an hour speed limit. The issue with the bracketry is that these new signs will mount to the existing posts, but they use different hardware. ones that are on there right now have, which everyone agreed, it has a bracket that's decorative and ornamental that actually looks really kind of cool. And everyone said, we want to do that again. They're not compatible with this sign size. What all other options do you have? And he just kind of laughed and said, there's like 52 options. What do you want? So, let me think. Who met with Mike Armato, Elaine, thank you. She got the catalog from them and started going through the options. She was explaining the different bracket that mounts on the existing. So we're kind of in a holding pattern until we get all that figured out and get a cost proposal and what it's gonna run and how many of the posts actually need extensions. This new bracket, depending on how many signs you have on each pole, you're gonna need to extend the pole up to put the brackets on for all the signs. So we had a count of how many poles need to be extended and then all the hardware that's gonna be.
Are these gonna be separate poles from the light pole?
Yes, and this is something else. There's the standalone poles that are there now, but then we also talked about the addition of some based on where there currently isn't one, pointing to parking or pointing to whatever. And then up came the downtown project and we said, whoa, we gotta make sure we coordinate this with the engineers and everyone else so that everything's, looks good when it's done. So it's kind of a combination of things, no matter what we finally come to. It's probably gonna be more of just a decision on colors and selection and the brackets and what signs and where. That's the other part of it.
Yeah.
And we'll probably just turn that over to the village engineers and say,
Right.
where do you want it? What do you think looks good? And go from there.
I have a feeling that the colors and stuff may ultimately get affected by branding, right? You won't be making branding and stuff like that.
Fonts.
Everything.
Yeah, colors, style, yeah.
I was gonna suggest to the committee, we just get it worked up, what things we want to identify, roughly where we'd like to see them,
Yeah.
kind of work up that final product, and then the details of fonts and colors and things like that, we'll just defer till we're ready for it. So,
Thank you for continuing to work on that. Okay, and then anything else on the beautification bill, or is that it?
no, that's it. That's all we.
A lot.
I know, well, that's the kind of stuff that's why we can't have it. Thank you for your committee's work, your leadership. All right, Mr. Pizzolatto, the moment you've been waiting for.
Oh.
Walk us through the survey real quick.
Yes. So
In the time.
as everyone knows, we issued a survey out to the residents, asking, really, it was all around, how has COVID impacted overall business needs and wants within the residents? So 277 people responded. 73% live within the city limits. The remaining either were outside of town or not in town of Hampshire. 3/4 have children, and 8% own a business within the village. So most respondents were actually residents of, and not business owners. Age range, as well as the amount of time lived in Hampshire, was evenly distributed. There wasn't a weighting one more than another. One of the things that was interesting is so with the survey software, you can go back and you can filter the answers by any one of the questions you asked. So I went through and looked at a bunch of different things. Everyone responded for the most part. It didn't really matter your age. It didn't matter if you had kids. It didn't matter if you lived here or not. Most of the responses were identical. There was one thing that really just changed a little bit, and that was people that lived in Hampshire for 5 years or less compared to people that lived in Hampshire for more than 20 years. There was a perception of those who lived here for a short period of time had higher expectations of businesses, services, hours, availability than people that have lived here a long time. I think my hypothesis is that people just have gotten used to the way business is done in Hampshire, and they shop around those guidelines where people that come here have a higher expectation of availability and services that are offered. So when we asked them over the last 3 months, what type of businesses grew in importance of having in town, grocery stores were number one at 79% of all those that responded. Restaurants were at 72%. Hardware store was at 51%, and retail shops were at 24%. So that really rounded out what people wanted in town. But the following that were identified as must-have, ranked in order of importance, was a hardware store, grocery stores, and food and restaurant. So again, not anything overly surprising. We know that when Ace Hardware, Karen, I'm not sure if you're aware, but at the end of the block, there was an Ace Hardware store. And I want to say it was a hardware store for 105 years, I think, that long. And then in 2012 or 11,
Before that.
Is it been that long? That has been done?
no, I think it was 2000.
Is it really? I didn't think so. Okay.
It left, and no one took it over. And so this town has been clamoring for a hardware store. I work for Ace, so I hear about it.
I think that was a turning point for the whole town. I really.
Ace really does, I mean, again, yeah, I'm under bias, but Ace is really kind of a fabric of towns, you know, just like a grocery store or anything else. Yes, yes. So the next question was, what must a business have? Otherwise you won't shop there. So almost 80% of residents want to be able to shop in a store, but this was not surprising to me, but I think it's going to be a surprise to many. Over 45% of those respondents said it has to have buy online, curbside pickup, or buy online, delivered to my home. Otherwise, they're not going to even consider it. Now, I will caution that that's probably industry specific or retailer specific. So if you're a restaurant, I think curbside pickup is one of those that you would expect. If you're something like a dry cleaner or bank services, obviously you can't do necessarily delivered. Cleaner should probably could. But that was pretty eye-opening. So I think the one that this report's going to be gold to is somebody like Jeannie. I can share this with the existing businesses in town. We did ask a lot of people, or everyone, when they would like to have businesses open, what days of the week, as well as the hours of the day. So more service-based businesses were recommended to be open in the mornings and afternoons, but all 7 days a week. And then there's entertainment, so restaurants, retail shops, lifestyle, like fitness, had a bigger push to be open later in the evenings. We know that a lot of businesses shut down at 6 or 7 o'clock, but a lot of people that commute are not back into town until after that. So how can they do that? So we asked people, where do they go to find information about businesses? So the top 3 were Google was number 1, business websites were number 2, and Facebook was number 3.
Where's Bing?
They did not make the list. Yeah, so that's it's pretty amazing. I just saw a stat from Google that e-commerce, so online ordering, has increased more in the last 2 months than it has in the last 10 years. So the game has changed, and I think businesses definitely have to adapt. So remember, Google, business website, and Facebook were the top 3 places people go to search for information. So when we asked people, where did they go? How did they go about it, finding out if hours were updated and if things were open? They called store number 1, Facebook number 2, business website number 3. What was interesting to me was we asked also, what information did you not trust because it was not being kept up to date? Over a quarter of the people said Google. So think about it. Number 1 place people go to find information is Google. A quarter of the people said the number 1 place that was not up to date was Google. So if you're not keeping it up to date, you're pushing people outside of town. Business website was almost a quarter of the people said the business websites weren't up to date, and as well as Facebook. This is like my passion point. Yeah.
That's a question. Did this vary, these last couple questions, did those vary by age group?
No. No. The only thing that varied was, I think people are used to, they have kind of a cadence in their head that if I'm going to go here first to go search for if it's open, like for me, for example, I go Google first, I go website second, I go Facebook third. People might say I go Facebook first, Google second, but primarily it's those.
I can't imagine the younger generation calling the store.
Actually, it
That's what I do, so I was,
Yeah,
I was on both.
It didn't, no,
always
it didn't
also-
matter.
You do?
100%.
It didn't matter.
You're kidding.
No.
I think our store got called and constantly, I was always changing the message to make sure it was accurate.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, so,
Question.
Yeah.
With the page beforehand, where respondents go to find information, it says Google, business website, Facebook. Was that overall? And then
That
the
was
second page is during the shelter in place for any changes, where did you normally go?
Right.
So I find it interesting that it flipped, because it was Google, website, Facebook, and then it flipped to call the store, Facebook, website, Google.
it's because, yeah, so the reason for that was because people were finding that information wasn't up to date. Therefore, they were pushed to other
Gotcha.
ways to actually get
Gotcha.
the information.
Interesting.
So I will definitely get with Jeannie to help businesses in town keep these up to date, because it's vital. It's vital.
Interesting.
To your credit, after you brought that up, I made sure all of it. I emailed you because I was having a hard time with Google,
Oh,
because it
Anytime.
said it was permanently closed when I changed it a number on it.
Oh, boy.
They
Oh,
were,
my goodness.
they were defaulting this and that information, if stores weren't keeping information up to date.
Yeah.
Anytime, on the side note. Ever have questions?
I've got a call.
Ever have questions? Ask Dave.
I was this far from there.
So this was probably this next question, question 7, was the reason why we actually started the survey. Because for me personally, my work from home has changed drastically. And so I assumed I'm not the only person. So we asked people, if you work from home prior to the outbreak, how many days a week did you work from home? How many then did you work from home during? And then in the future, how many days are you gonna work from home? So 30% of the people that answered this survey at least worked from home 1 day a week prior to the outbreak. You can see that the orange bar is 5 days a week. So during the pandemic, most people were working every day of the week from home. You can see though the shift really from after, the people that worked 1 day a week from home, that volume actually was paired out across 3, 4, and 5 days a week. So what that means is that probably indefinitely, we're gonna have more people in town throughout the week versus just being here on the evenings during the weekdays and on the weekends. So like for myself, personally speaking, when I would work from home 1 day a week, it's probably gonna go to like 3 days a week now.
I think it's interesting that it wasn't as big a jump, the pre and the post. Obviously during makes total sense because everyone was at home. Actually, I was expecting a bigger, now I think employees probably don't know 100%
Yeah.
yet, right, what that number is gonna be, but I would have thought it's almost 30% pre for 5 days. And then post pandemic, it's 40%.
But then collectively, if you take 3, 4, and 5,
Oh, you're adding them together.
right, those incremental gains made up a lot of that.
Okay.
One,
Oh, yeah, because if you look at the 1 day.
yeah.
Okay. I get that.
Next question. So with, again, the question was post-pandemic, do you see yourself shopping in Hampshire more? 46% said yes, I will shop more in Hampshire than I did prior to. And then 50% said no, I'll shop the same. So I don't think that's overly negative. We expect that. I think just in my professional career, you expect a lot of people that, they're happy where they shop, right? And who's to say that people don't already heavily shop in Hampshire, right? That's the same. So overall takeaways, there's a great dependency on the need for more businesses across all industries in Hampshire. People want to shop local. Residents that have lived here less than 10 years expect more out of businesses than people that have lived here longer. Many more residents will be in town throughout the weekdays, so the more local businesses we have, the more business that can be done. With almost half of the respondents saying that businesses must buy online, either through curbside or deliver to home, local businesses should be exploring to offer this service. business owners should look to keep their businesses open longer on certain days of the week. So I know, we explored this in the past, and some businesses have problems staying open later 5 days a week, but maybe it's 1 or 2 days a week, you know? I know myself prior to COVID, if anything was closing at 6, there's no way I'm getting here, and shopping them during the week. It just can't happen. And then local businesses need to keep their Google and Facebook business listings open, or business listing along with their websites up to date. So that's just the overall recap. I think, again, a lot of this is going to be good information for Jeannie, but the more that we can let businesses in town know. And I think this will also serve that when we talk to prospects, you know, there's more people in town.
I did share this with Jeannie, just so you know,
Okay.
because you had sent this to me yesterday
Yeah.
and be updated and sent it to her. But I wonder, I know Jeannie in her chamber meetings wants to do sort of educational seminars. When we talked about sort of wanting to do that for businesses, but we thought of shifting it to the chamber as a function. Maybe some of us might, but this might be, you know, maybe something you and her talk about maybe you coming in and sort of helping people. Some of our local businesses do the online stuff and as a way our group to help her group.
Yeah.
So, because I think that would be really useful, because I think you really have a lot of knowledge on, you know, this kind of stuff, and I think our businesses here in town would benefit from that.
Yeah.
So, awesome. As always, great work, Dave. All right, this is not coming off the agenda. Administrative adjudication. Where are we?
Made some significant progress actually. So, last week, I think, yeah, I had about an hour-long conversation with the administrative adjudication hearing clerk,
Okay.
who also works for the police department in Genoa.
Yeah,
They
okay.
have administrative adjudication with, they partner with Kingston, I believe, but everything's held there. Couple of interesting things. They have software. It's not really software. It's a Microsoft Access database
Okay.
that they use to track all of their stuff that NIU built for them. NIU's Center on Intergovernmental Studies, I think, or one of their centers built for them.
Yeah.
That's been working very well. And I doubt it's too complicated. She invited me over to see it, check it out, see how it works. And they are allowed to give that away to one other municipality for free. Which they were planning on doing last year, the year before with somebody else, forgot who, and that municipality backed out for whatever reason. So if it's something worth our while, it might be for free that we could get and jump on right away. Start learning how to use it. It's got 2 sides. It's got kind of a police vehicle violation side, and then it's got more of like a property kind of side to it, is what she described. So it sounds like very useful. So yeah, I'm gonna meet with her soon. Look at their ticket, because they've got a ticket for zoning violation, like a single ticket that covers zoning, building, property, and traffic or police violations. That can, you know, be the police departments if they want it. They'll probably just keep using the same one, but our building department could use it, our street department could use it, and make that process start working. Don't think we'll probably start it mid-pandemic, just because everything's hard enough that people don't wanna have to be told that they've got too tall grass right now, unless, you know, it's absurd. But yeah, that's the progress.
And from this group's perspective, that's awesome. That sounds great. We're, you know, for us, it's about is using it as a lever, and I know I say it every time, I'm gonna say it every time, is a lever to drive them into the arms of the beautification committee, right? Is we want specifically the people in the downtown area, specifically Palzo's Rose Garden and the old Ace building, to be quite frankly, Chicken Dip at some point, look, we're gonna be investing $1 million into this space. You know, it's time. We've been very patient, right? And we created a program to help fund it. But if they don't come to the table willingly, then we're gonna have to use some levers to bring them to the table and have that conversation. So that's at least, I think we've expressed that several times, is that's why it's on our agenda, is because that's what, you know, Palzolo's, that guy, I've called him like 50 times. He hasn't called me back. So, I mean, we've done everything we can to create a program to help them. They don't want to take advantage of it, you know. And it's, you know, for people like, you know, Elaine and her husband, you know, take care of their business beautifully. And we got the Stanley family investing in Hampshire and doing this great work. You know, Copper Barrel did their thing, Peterson Fuels did their thing. We've got, you know, Christine's working to do. I mean, you got to get part of the program.
That's right.
You don't want to be part of the program, then you sell your building or whatever.
So what is the fine structure? I'm just
The fine
curious.
well, so
Like for the facades.
non-home municipalities, no matter what the fine is, are limited to $750. So any violation that we have on our code books is a max of $750 fine. However, that can be assessed per day of violation. So it could add up really quickly. Now, that's, I think, probably considered bad form to just.
Yeah.
But, it's legal anyway. The process essentially is that an inspector, whether it be the building department or whoever, the inspector, checks out the building, or receives a complaint, they go look at it, and then they if there is a violation, of course, they issue a notice of code violation, and then that person generally has 7 days to rectify it. If it's a more extensive one, that time can be granted. They communicate with the village that they're gonna rectify that. And then if there's no communication or they don't rectify it within 7 days, like they said they would, then we can put a fine on them. And then depending on what type of violation it is, it goes from there.
I'm wondering, there are some facades that is it just gonna be a patch, to get around the code violation, but it's still nice. We just have to think about that.
Yeah, no, we will, and we'll be curious to hear next meeting after you've met with people and and we've secured the free software. Yeah, because those would be the next things, because again, we're not, the goal isn't to collect the fines.
No.
The goal is to create the behavior that is at least consistent and commensurate with what everybody else is doing. So at least that's, I think, our opinion. And we don't want to collect fines. That's not how you want to generate revenue for your village.
You
But
might be making phone calls.
yeah, yes, but we do want to get off that center, that's the rich challenge. Okay, awesome, thank you. And then just real quick, did you guys have a chance to look at Jeannie's articles on Luxor and Rose Garden? I think we're very lucky to have her. I think we should all try to mention that as often as we can. She does such a really great job. The Rose Garden one, Luxor's already been sent out. So I was surprised on Facebook listening, people really love that place. Do you go there, seriously? Yeah, you used to think it's fantastic too. So that's a nice, nice place that we have her. I guess she does a really good job. And then the Rose Garden one will go the third week of July. I think it's
So active.
Yeah. She's done a great job, and I mean, I hope Sam and Tony recognize. Like I hope Dave recognized what Gina's doing. Because, so anyways, okay, so we have the next list. Anybody have a suggestion of another company that we should add after Stanley Machine? Anyone? Who in town?
That's the copper.
Copper was the second one we did, I think, yep. Who else? Chicken Dip, the new owner, maybe?
What did we
Yeah,
do?
that was being on market, I don't know.
Yeah, we get to watch it.
Yeah. Otherwise, I would absolutely love it. It looks bad.
What about the vet?
You know what, that's a really good idea.
Very good idea. Which
Doesn't
one?
love animals.
Do we have two pets? Just the one, get some.
It's just fun.
Yeah,
That's when they're retired.
Yeah.
right,
He's still there.
So his niece.
sure my wife knows.
That's his niece?
I think it's his niece. I think
Is it-
that's what he told me.
Is it called Hampshire Animal?
Yeah.
Yes, Hampshire.
Awesome, we'll put that on there. Okay, does anybody have anything else to share with the group at this point?
Do you?
Me?
Yeah, any new or existing?
Yes, I mean, we've got some meetings that I don't want to talk about really that are still kind of private, and good things that are happening. I think people will want to know about eventually, but I don't want to share that at this point, but there's not been anything really significant that I'm aware of, any different. And Josh, I'm looking at you, so not for me.
I'm looking at my list here to see if there's anything relevant to these.
Can I ask a question while you're looking?
Yeah.
The whole thing on branding, where is that going? We discussed it tonight. Now, what's the next step and how soon can we get going on
I think Jay was gonna
He's gonna take it.
take it and have the company.
that? Okay, he's gonna vet the company and then get back to us so we
And
know.
Karen was going to ask for
Wednesday about it.
They're gonna do.
Barrington,
Barrington.
yeah, to see what they thought, and
They're
then.
not listed on their website, I just checked, which is weird.
Huh,
They list a lot of communities and Barrington's not one, maybe it was just a smaller job and they didn't. But I'll-
Okay, and it sounded like,
That would have been a big job.
So,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was just the logo and the others were more comprehensive or.
yeah, I think Jay's trying to drive it down to a small enough number that the village board will slam dunk it through and should at least get the process started, it seems to me that he was thinking, so. Nothing, Jeff?
Just a couple of things from the staff side. We're uploading more and more properties up onto Intersect Illinois. Drove around the other day and literally found every sign of acres and took note and got to contact all those people now to make sure they wanted up on the site.
Okay.
In addition to the code enforcement process, we are revising the larger development process. So when somebody wants to annex, or somebody wants a special use, or somebody wants a variance, somebody wants to change their zoning, there's a whole process and it's pretty messy right now. And so we're gonna fix that up hopefully this week, maybe next. We'll have something new. I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
So nice to have you and Jay.
It's good. I was gonna take the words right
I
out
was
of my
thinking
mouth.
that earlier, how much is getting done?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's awesome.
yes. Yeah, we would not be, this downtown project would not be where it is without you guys. So we want to make sure that you're aware how grateful we are. Okay, guys, at this point, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll say.
That's my, the village board. All those in favor say aye. All those who are opposed are crazy. This meeting is adjourned. Get these in there, so.